Hello everybody. I don't recognise too many people here, probably because you've all got masks on. Anyway, it's really good to be here. I just happen to be in Melbourne. I'm from Adelaide, so I was coming over to Melbourne anyway. It just happened to be that this conference was on, so it's a bit of fortress calm, I guess, that you were together. So a bit of background first from me. I'm from London originally, born and bred in London, and I had the extreme great fortune to somehow walk up Copan Hill. I happened to be in Nepal with my partner at the time, Lindy, in 1977 in November, and we met up with a guy that we'd met about 3 months before in Thailand, and he mentioned to us that there was this meditation course with these two Tibetan lamas, and I'd had some kind of inkling about Tibet from young childhood actually, and thought it was a fantastic opportunity to find out a bit more about what had been held within Tibet, for 1,000 years or more. So anyway, so we went to the Copan course, the 10th course, and just within a minute, Lama had grabbed me and Lindy and a couple of hundred people who were at that course. So yeah, that was our connection with Tibetan Buddhism, and went back again to attend the 12th course, and at that course I met Dave and Alice, who local TI people would know who we're talking about. Unfortunately, they got COVID and unable to attend the course. So. But Dave did ask me to, if I was here, to come and just maybe share a few stories about my experience with Lama. There's a lot of people here that probably have had more experience of being around Lama. I could tell you stories, but to convey how amazing Lama was and Lama is still, I would suggest that if you could look at some of the videos that are now available on YouTube, and probably most of you have, but I think that you really would get a much better picture than what I could paint with Lama. But he was unique, unique teacher of Dharma in the world, and that's not a biased opinion, I don't think. Lama was unique, and together with Rinpoche, they were like the perfect team. Rinpoche would come and knock us about the ears with all the teachings on the Hell Realms for hour after hour for a few days, and then Lama would come in and just lighten the whole load and have us belly achingly laughing, within minutes of being there. I would like to share the first time that I ever met Lama was at Copan, and the course hadn't started. And when we got there, there was this pile of rubble, and it was the toilet block that had just been built for the 10th course, because it was becoming very popular. I think the 8th course, 9th course was 180, 200 people, and then the 10th course was I think 230 people there. So Lama organised to get a toilet block built. And this is how I got the story, was that one day Rinpoche said, everybody on Kopan Hill's got to come to the puja. And was very strong about that. And everybody did go to the puja, all of the young monks, except for one. And he was down in the toilet playing with matches. And he struck a match and threw it down the toilet hole. And the whole toilet block exploded. And fortunately, this young monk wasn't killed. But the whole toilet block was smashed. So Lindy and I were walking around, the course hadn't started, and we walked around out the front gate of Kopan and stood on top of this big mound of bricks and mortar was Lama and Nepali builders who had just built that toilet block, and he was just talking to them about how they could rebuild it again. And he engaged us in conversation. We just, we were just amazed that he had the time to talk to us. And he was very engaging. And we asked him what had happened, and he told us what had happened. And then he just said, "You see what happens with blocked energy." And that was the first Dharma teaching that I received from Lama, and that's stuck with me for over 40 years. Let me just look at my notes because I've written a few things down. Yeah, so trouble with only having one hand, which is useful. No, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. I've just got some notes. So yeah, well, obviously we were hooked by Lama and Rinpoche. We were pretty young, only 22 then, and second time when we went back to 12th course. Lindy was pregnant with our first child, and we went and saw Lama at the end of the course, and we were thinking that the child would be born in Kathmandu, and I'm sort of well known for liking a good feed, and Lama just looked at me and said, "The food's better in Australia." So anyway, we came back here, and there was nothing really in Adelaide. There was a small group, had a loose connection with the Kagyu lineage, but we thought, wouldn't it be fantastic to have an FPMT centre in Adelaide? So a couple of years later, in 1981, Lama was coming to Australia, so we just wrote a letter to the central office, I guess, and invited Lama to come to Adelaide, not thinking for 1 minute that he would come. And we got a note back, only a few weeks later, from Lama personally saying, "I'm very, very busy, but as soon as you've invited me, I'll come." So it was incredible to think that Lama would think to come to a little place like Adelaide. But he did, and when we went to the airports, Adelaide Airport, there was no real kind of big entry point there. The plane would just pull up, steps would go up to the plane, and people would come down the steps and walk across the tarmac. And there's Lama just walking across the tarmac on his own. Yeah, we couldn't believe it. But he came, gave three nights teaching on the three principal aspects of the path. And Gen Dondrup, Venerable Dondrup, was the monk who was attending. And all together we asked Lama if we could start a centre. And as he was driving to the airport, and he just closed his eyes for a few seconds, and we asked him for a name, and he came out with the name Buddha House. Centre for Advanced Buddhist Studies. And I thought, wow, that's quite a mouthful. For little old Adelaide. So, anyway, so that's how Buddha House got started. And at 2 of those nights, Kimball Cudahy, who also was supposed to be here and tested positive for COVID. I don't know if any of you met him before. So Kimball had bought this land on Kangaroo Island back in 1977 and is now Detong Retreat Centre, or half of that land. Amazing, beautiful native bush, and I highly recommend everybody to go and visit sometime, especially the SPCs that are here. And Kimball said to say hello, by the way. I'm sorry that he couldn't attend because of the COVID. But yeah, he really was looking forward to connecting up with the other SPCs that are here from the other centres. But that will happen another time, I guess. So Lama's speech, if any of you have read Big Love, Adele has mentioned how Lama has this unique way of speaking. And I think one of his sayings was family feeling, but it would come out as family feeling. So, and it was sort of needed subtitles sometimes, Lama, but obviously we didn't have them. So he was giving, when he came to Adelaide, and we went to this other centre that had this Kagyu connection, and he gave a 1,000-arm Chenrezig empowerment to everybody. But when he explained the visualisation of 1,000-arm Chenrezig, he said, elephant head. But he was saying 11 head. Visualise 11 head, 1,000 arm. But the way he said 11 head, it came out as elephant head. And a lot of the people who didn't have any sort of connection with Dharma, after the initiation, we started talking to many people, and most of the people there were visualising an elephant with 1,000 arms. Classic. And then straight after the Buddha House, the visit to Adelaide, Lama went to Bendigo, and that was the start of Atisha Centre immediately after. And it was there that he stood on the hill with a number of the students, Gary and Ian Green and a few others, and that's where the idea for building the Great Stupa came from. But during that course, he was leading a meditation, and I don't know, say, oh, maybe you were there as well. Adele, maybe you were there, I'm not sure. But he was guiding a meditation, and he said, now touch your neighbour. So I heard touch your navel. So I thought, this is very, very strange. It was very packed as well. It was so tightly packed in this little old weatherboard church. And as I touched my navel, somehow, then I felt somebody touch my arm, and I thought, oh no, he said touch your neighbour. And the next day I remember Lama coming in, and he must have been looking down and seeing half the people touching their neighbour and the other half touching their neighbour. So, yeah, very funny. Yeah, so Kapan, second time we went back, you know, we'd heard these teachings about, you know, caring for sentient beings, and even the mosquitoes, you know, biting, you know, the kindest, most kind being in the universe. And one time we came out of the Gompa, which was an old Hessian tent with tin on the top, very, very basic. And yeah, we were walking out of the Gompa, and Lama Lundrup, who was he was the abbot of Kopan, while Lama and Rinpoche would be travelling the world teaching Dharma to us, Lama Lundrup would stay behind looking after the Kopan monks, and really kept the fort at Kopan for decades. And I always remember coming out of the Gompa and seeing Lama Lundrup and Lama Yeshe just sitting there on, you know, we had to walk past them basically. They were just sitting there, and they were both covered in mosquitoes, just letting the mosquitoes feed them. It was the most amazing teaching, really incredible. And then at the end of the course, the first course, Lindy and I just thought, wow, it's a pretty intense month we've just experienced. Let's go down to Kathmandu and have a break before the 2-week retreat afterwards. So we went down to Kathmandu, and we sort of floated down there really. First day we were just as calm as, and then the second day, a little bit more, you know, agitation. And then the third day, we thought, we've got to get back to Kopan. You know, we're starting to lose our calmness, and the grasping was appearing again. And so we went back to Kopan, and we were sitting at the back of the Gompa, outside the Gompa, and we just sort of, you know, vegging out, and all of a sudden we hear, "Oh, hello dears, how are you?" And we look up, and there's Lama Yeshe hanging over the back of the Gompa, because Rinpoche and Lama had rooms upstairs. And we just sort of looked at, "Oh yeah, hello." He said, "How was everything?" And so we sort of explained to him what had happened. You know, we were okay the first day, second day, a little bit more, and third day we thought we've got to get back to Kopan. And he just said, "Is there Muni or no Muni?" And we looked at each other, and then we looked up. He was gone. It's just, you know, one word teaching was kind of, you know, sunk right in just there and then. You know, is there control or is there not control? And you know, those teachings still stick with me, you know, 40 years later. So, you know, how they say that one word from an enlightened being can, you know, just sink in and remain there. Okay, nearly finished. I mean, I've got lots of stories, but I realised I didn't have all night. So after Buddha House and Atisha Centre, I think that was the end of the tour, was the Atisha Centre visit. So I don't know who did this, so I don't know if somebody's here who organised it, but we ended up at a disco in Collins Street in the middle of Melbourne. Anybody else go to that? Adele, did you go? Yeah. So I was never into disco myself, you know. But all I remember is just silver everywhere. And two things that happened there that I remember, and Dave Andrews actually was going to tell this story, but obviously he's not here. I don't know exactly what he was going to say, but my memory of that was Lama saying that we had initiated him into disco. And also there was a lady there who was blind, or I don't know who she was. She was a very old lady, and Lama seemed to know her, and just the expression of compassion from Lama, it was almost like he was crying when he was embracing her, giving her a big hug, but it was just a hug with the most amazing visual expression of compassion. It was so beautiful. And then almost at the same time, in the same speech, there was a guy there who was obviously very drunk, and he was abusing Lama, you know, this almost untouchable being from another realm, that this guy was abusing Lama, saying, you know, he wasn't swearing at him, but he was just accusing him of being a hopeless person, and all he does was laugh all the time. I thought, well, you know, what's wrong with that? But the way that Lama dealt with that, you know, the teaching of just, if you can't change anything, just be like a stick of wood. And Lama just expressed that so perfectly, you know, in front of, I don't know, maybe 60 or 70, you know, dedicated students. So, yeah. Yeah, I think that's it for me. But I would just like to say one thing what Adele touched on at the end there about Cora around Tara Institute. Just a quick plug for Detonly again. That we built quite a big stupa on top of a gompa. Some of you might have seen pictures of it. And a big prayer wheel. And also a big Padmasambhava statue as well in an adjoining lake, a small lake. So we've had that idea to make Cora around, you know, just go around the Padmasambhava statue, or just around the stupa, or just around the prayer wheel house, or just around everything. So we've got these 3 routes of Cora. So yeah, I'd just like to endorse what Adele said, that if, you know, our Dharma centres around Australia, in this case, you know, that's a great idea. So, yeah. That's it from me, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Will. And we'll end the session with short dedication. Would you lead, Stefan?
So just dedicating all the merit from today, and also all the merit from the past, present and future, created by ourselves and others, including all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So rejoicing in that and dedicating it to fulfill the wishes of our holy gurus, particularly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Yeshe and Lama Abrams, and all our teachers, fulfilling their wishes to quickly attain enlightenment, to be of great benefit to all sentient beings. Lama Sangye Drugane Drovachi Kamalupade Salagupashu Jamchu Senchu Rinpoche Make Panyam Kekushe Ke Panyam Pave Payam Gong Ne Gong Du Kalpashu.
Merci. Thank you. So those from the seminar, see you tomorrow. 8:45. 8:45. Huh?